Your Town Matters is funded by the Government of Canada through the Local Journalism Initiative and supported by Cactus Media, Canada's independent community television association.
I'm Vicki Hogarth and welcome to Your Town Matters. My guest today is Mayor of the town of St. Andrews, Brad Henderson. Thanks for being here today, Brad.
Happy to be back.
Now, we've obviously just kicked off the summer season here, a little early, starting with Paddle Fest and most recently the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. Are you happy with how things are going in terms of the tourism season?
I certainly am, and I don't know about you, but everything feels a lot more special. Like the fact that we haven't been able to do these celebrations the last 2 years. Even this past weekend at the Queen's Jubilee, they had the New Brunswick Youth Orchestra playing, and I've always enjoyed it, but there was a moment throughout the performance when everybody was together again, the kids were playing, and you just had that kind of in the moment kind of feeling that you're like, we haven't been able to do this. So as far as the response for the public, it's been really, really good. Paddle Fest weekend, the downtown was full, it was vibrant. There's some people that you meet on the streets that said, I haven't been able to come to St. Andrews in a couple of years, and I know that restrictions were somewhat lifted last summer, but the truth is a lot of people still, there wasn't a lot happening, a lot of special events that drew people out. And then, you know, if you look ahead the rest of the summer and you talk to hotel operators, that's our best indicator of heads and beds of how the summer is going to go. And all the indications is that it should be a busy summer in St. Andrews, and you never want to take that for granted because a lot of people locally discovered us when the borders were closed. You just don't want to make the assumption they're going to come back. But kudos to Luke McDonald and his whole team at Paddle Fest. That's so much work to put it on. I know the amount of behind-the-scenes hours that they do. It's literally a year-round process for them. Mm-hmm. And I know that right now they're looking to see what that looks like for next year. So I'm looking forward to having discussions on how maybe the municipality can make that easier for them. And then the Jubilee had basically, it wasn't even a municipal event. It was a bunch of businesses and individuals in the community that cared. They wanted to get together to celebrate it. They thought we were a great place with a rich heritage and obviously being a loyalist community to celebrate. And it was a brand new event and it was well attended, and the schedule of events was so diversified. It didn't matter kind of you were a kid, you were an adult, had a family. There was something kind of for everybody. And you know, for myself and probably you, we went to probably 5 or 6 different events, but a lot of people just took one in and they really appreciate it. So it's good to celebrate, and it's good to have people come to our community and have another summer in St. Andrews.
Definitely. I think I felt that feeling you speak of first at Paddle Fest, at the David
absolutely.
Miles show. You pinched yourself because it's been a long time.
Yep.
And it is emotionally overwhelming. And I think the Jubilee weekend speaks to the scale at which St. Andrews can do something, that it wasn't just big for a small town, it was big for anywhere in the province.
Yeah, first new real event that we've had in 2 years, because it wasn't the time to do a new event. And everybody kind of got into the spirit of it and the participation. The thing that kind of got a lot of the attention was the standout of the Queen moving all around the community. There was people that were driving around looking for it, and I know on social media it was a bit of a buzz, and it certainly helped make the weekend a success because some people earlier in the week saw the Queen's cutout and they're like, oh, let's go down and check out St. Andrews for the day. So and the other thing is a lot of the activity was very affordable. There was no charge. If you look at even the community picnic, people got a free meal thanks to the generosity of Drew Haven. So it certainly was a special weekend, and we've got a lot more ahead this summer with all the festivals and events returning back to what we would call normal.
I do want to speak to that, and at the time of taping this, it's just before a big Pride celebration at Cura Amphitheatre, a big drag show, and you and I were talking before we started recording today about the scale of this too for Charlotte County Pride. It is a benefit, and I'll let you speak to the event that's going on, but it does say a lot about St. Andrews in particular for leading the way in terms of taking charge and making Pride a bigger deal here.
Exactly. So when you look at St. Andrews, and I would say that we're a fairly inclusive community, but I think even a community that deems itself inclusive, there's always opportunities to improve and be a community that for all. And not everybody's views are the exact same. So the more that we can educate people and let them know that, you know what, if you're happy, like, that's all that matters. Like, you look at the problems in the world right now. So this community is always embraced. We've had, fortunately, a very strong LGBTQ community, but we've done pride celebrations in the past in the sense that our downtown's been decorated thanks to the wonderful work of our Business Improvement Association. But I don't really think during National Pride Month that there's been a lot of activation and events and gatherings and places where people can celebrate either their lifestyle or celebrate the fact that they support that lifestyle. To have the drag event at the Kira Amphitheatre, it's the first time wearing my Kingsbury hat now with my day job. It's the first time we've actually had an event like this, so we're looking forward to it. Ticket sales so far have been going very, very well as of right now, and CHCO is going to be on site as always to help show people the highlights of it as well. But I definitely encourage people to come out. Part of the proceeds is going to Charlotte County Pride, which is relatively a young organization still, and I think financing for them would be critical. So if we can all get together, share a laugh, and of course we have a local, Lee Wells, who was part of the Jubilee Committee. Lee is what I call the halftime show, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he does from a local perspective. But it should be a great weekend, and we're looking forward to it, and hopefully the start of a weekend to grow. Like there's more opportunities for a concept like that to make it even of a bigger type of activation.
Yeah, it's great to always see the Charlotte County Pride activities, but I think what's exciting and interesting about this event is that it makes Charlotte County Pride, St. Andrews Pride a destination Pride event, and as we see with Pride around the world, but in Canada often people travel to the different events, so it's very exciting to see how this weekend goes.
And I've actually myself never been to a drag show. I've watched Drag Bingo on CHCO, which was a huge success and a lot of fun, so I'm looking forward to attending my first show and welcoming anybody who would like to come to our community and join in a safe place and celebrate who they are.
And I should mention too, it's all ages, this show. So
all
it's
ages,
okay.
yeah, absolutely.
Another big scale event coming up is National Aboriginal Day in St. Andrews, June 21st. Can you tell us a little more detail about what will be happening that day?
I can. So this is a new event by St. Andrews Standards where we're, again, activating it. So it's a partnership between the town of St. Andrews and the Pescatoo-Mogati people. So Chief Akaji himself and his office is aware of it, and John Ames and people like that. But really it's 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. So it's a daytime activation on National Aboriginal Day. It's going to be at Centennial Park. And it's going to be a very diverse offering. There's going to be educational elements to it. There's going to be cultural. There's going to be culinary. There's going to be food samples. There's going to be activities. The schools, it is a school day, just the way that it falls. But the schools are going to participate and bring students there. But it is open to the public. A full list should be, a schedule should be available in the very near future. But to really celebrate, like when we looked at the Jubilee, obviously we're a Loyalist community, but we certainly had Indigenous people here first. We are on the unceded traditional territory. And I think the more that we can understand and the more that we can get together and realize the history, but also a lot of the similarities that we have and in the spirit of it, I think that it bodes well. And the more that we can do with the Pescatoo-Mogati from a town perspective, I think it's something that's long overdue in my own personal opinion. I think that we should be meeting more regularly. I think we should be talking more regularly. It shouldn't be necessarily something that's a response in the media. It should be something that's heartfelt and something that we want to do. And I'm really proud of this council and the fact that this is something that they're fully supporting, and I'm really glad the Pescatoo-Mogati also supports it.
I think if last year's Orange Shirt Day is any indication of how it will go, how many people will come out, I certainly see it being a success already.
I could be wrong, but I think it was even not the largest gathering in the province. It was close to it, and that a lot of credit goes to as well Deputy Mayor Kate Akaji on council, as she was the one that really behind the scenes was driving that Orange Shirt Day and that celebration we had towards the point. I think people right now are realizing that there's more we can understand and more we can do, and we're very fortunate that the town of St. Andrews is one of the locations in this area that's really recognizing it.
Another celebration that St. Andrews has been known for over the years is Canada Day, and the scale at which Canada Day is celebrated here. It has always brought in tourists from all over, but because of COVID, it's been scaled back quite significantly the last couple years. But as I understand, this year we should be seeing something similar to what it's really known for in town. Can you speak to those activities that are currently on the agenda?
I can. It's going back to the traditional Canada Day celebrations that we had before, but it almost feels new because we haven't been able to do it. But there's a lot of activity throughout the day. But I'll call it the headlining events from. For me, it was a tradition since I was a kid. You go to the pancake breakfast at the fire hall. From there, I always went down and I caught the parades. The parades are turning. Encourage anyone that wants to participate to do it. The Business Improvement Association is actually giving out trophies for first, second, and third with prize money this year. And the market, of course, is the next thing that I do. Kira itself is going to have another concert. So Jimmy Rankin, one of the top maritime artists, is going to be right here in St. Andrews by the Sea. So that'll be 4 o'clock. And then the other big event that I always circle is, of course, the fireworks, which happen obviously at dusk. To have all those events where everyone can gather, be together, celebrate how fortunate we are to live in this country. And for St. Andrews to be one of the spots in the province everyone circles on the map to say that's where I want to celebrate. As a kid, it was my favorite time of year in the summer. And I just look at myself as a big kid because I'm looking forward to everybody celebrating Canada Day in St. Andrews as well.
And I know that for businesses, it's a huge day. What is the number that it usually brings in? It's quite a significant in terms of thousands of people that
What's kind of interesting, I don't have the number before me, but it's a number I could get because we actually did a traffic study. And they actually put counters on top of poles. We were trying to figure out traffic patterns. So we actually can get the number of cars that came into town. All I know is that if you're by the 127s on both sides, the cars never stop. They're just constantly coming in. So it literally, if you look at it, literally brings thousands and thousands. And one of the most powerful images that I've seen of downtown St. Andrews is when people are aligned the streets when the parade's going on. To see that many people in our little town, it's just all of us indirectly are tour guides. But you can't help but even before I was mayor, I was proud to see that people wanted to be in my community. So, but literally, not taking it for granted. The weather's nice. It should be a busy day in town.
And I know that COVID obviously isn't over, but there are still precautions being taken in town. I've already noticed across town there's hand sanitizer stations. So you are taking some effort again this year to make sure there's some safety measures in place.
There absolutely is. And I'm totally aware that everybody has different comfort levels when it comes to dealing with COVID-19. Some people now are just ready to take on the risks and they want to live their life, and that's completely their decision. There's people that are doing that with masks, people that aren't. I'm all about self-choice. But there's also, if you want to participate in Canada and St. Andrews, you can actually get on some of the side streets. Like I've been in the parade enough in this community. If you're on Harriet Street, for example, it's not that packed. So you can still see the parade go by. Even Jimmy Rankin at the Kira Amphitheater, you can go up on the side, up by the mulch. You can go on the back lawn. You can hear the music. So if you're not as comfortable with large crowds, there is still ways that you can participate in this community. Of course, the fireworks, there's lots of room. Like people watch it at the Blockhouse, the golf course, some people downtown. You could be up towards the Algonquin on the hill and still get impressions. So there's lots of activity with different levels. But as far as a municipality, we're aware that it's still out there. We still have, like you mentioned, the hand sanitizing as well. If you look at kind of operational plans and things like that, some businesses still very much have operational plans intact. But at this point, it's just respecting everybody's choice and what they're comfortable with, and learning that if your neighbor has a mask on and you don't, or vice versa, it's okay. That's your choice.
You spoke a little bit about traffic on Canada Day. Traffic in general, always busier in the summer season in St. Andrews. The Oneway Street is back in effect. How's that going downtown Water Street?
It's been going very well. The first year, I can honestly say, it was an issue of controversy. I definitely, in my time on town council, I wasn't mayor, but that's probably the thing I heard the most on, believe it or not. But last year we made some major changes to it. We made it kind of a nautical feel. There's parking still allowed on both sides of the street. We added even more accessible parking spots so people with disabilities could get closer to the place they want. This year we've made some minor modifications. The big one is we added the 30-minute parking back in. Just simply the fact that if you're at the hardware store and that, these are changes that were kind of COVID related. They're not at all anymore, but if you're downtown and there's like a truck that before was parked, it was hard to get around it with traffic going, especially if someone's coming with a camper. The one-way traffic flow, it's so easy to drive in downtown St. Andrews. I don't want to call it a pilot project anymore because we've done it multiple years. I don't know what the end game is there when council's got to consider. Is this something permanently we want to change? Because putting it up and taking it down, it's a lot. But when you have a one-way street, there's things that I had no idea that's interesting for the public to know is our plows are not actually set up for one-way streets because it has to push the snow both ways. Ours only pushes it one way because we only had two-way streets. So there's some things outside of just making things one-way street for winter that we would actually need to get. Things you didn't know before I was on town council, I guess. But so far, so good. We did actually check with residents. And usually when you have people opposed to something, they're more vocal. But in the survey, I think it was over 400 residents, and we're only a town of 2,000. They got involved and responded. And it was overwhelming in support of the one-way street. So I know there's a few that don't like it, but majority are absolutely saying that it is something. And I know when I'm downtown, it's easier to move and quicker to move now.
I would say the controversy of this year, if we can call it that, is what's being known as the skateboarding bylaw, but it's the non-vehicular traffic bylaw for just that very small downtown area where it's business district. I was at the council meeting Monday night, though, where there was a hearing of objections, if I understand, and no one from town came. I know you did receive some letters, so how is that going? Where are we at with this bylaw?
Correct. So we did get a number of letters, both for and against. It's important to note that we're not completely repealing the bylaw. That was the original conversation, but council's basically enacting a new bylaw. And what that bylaw would do is it would allow scooters, skateboards, inline skates in downtown St. Andrews. But within it, there is mechanisms in place that reference being respectful, speeds. So if someone's down there, and also respecting private property, and as well things like the cenotaph. I'm not saying that youth in our community are going to be on a skateboard on top of our cenotaph, but you want to have a mechanism in place there that legally you can say you're breaking a bylaw. So there is going to be a bylaw in place, but it's across the province. It's not just St. Andrews, especially with electric scooters and things like that. More and more places are talking about them, sidewalks and trails. We're no different. Councillor Gumashel was the one that brought it forward. He did with the previous council. It did get defeated, but this council's saying to think that if you have a 9-year-old or an 8-year-old that's on a scooter and you're walking in downtown St. Andrews and that's against the bylaw, it does feel a little rigid. So we're putting the faith in that the youth and adults that use these in our community are going to be respectful. There still is a mechanism to make sure of that, but it's no longer, assuming it goes to the next process, is going to be banned in St. Andrews. So we still have to do second and third reading, but if no one shows up at a hearing of objections, chances are you could do the second and third reading on the same night because there's no new information that we'll have. But again, if anyone's for it or against it, I encourage them to reach out to Town Hall, send an email to mayor and councillors, because until it's gone through third reading, it's still very much an active debate. But my assumption is that the town of St. Andrews will allow that to happen in the future. And I know that it kind of felt a little bit like Footloose, no dancing or whatever it was in the community. We were no skateboarding, but I do take the letters very serious that people need to be respectful, because there's people in our community that go and do their shopping or their essential services, and they don't want to be run over, and there's concerns over that. And all it takes is one person to do the wrong thing, and that's how it was enacted in the first place. From my understanding, is there was 2 incidents, and they enacted after it not being an issue for a number of years. So we'll see.
And it's easier than ever if you don't even have to go to the council meeting, you can sign in over Zoom and make yourself heard.
It's true, through CHCO, through Zoom, through Facebook, or doing the old-fashioned way, attend in person. You certainly can. So to think that we have 4 different ways to get our message out there, if you're trying to be transparent as a council, if people want to know what's going on, there's a number of different ways you can now find out. And Zoom was kind of a thing that really happened during the pandemic. It's great for transparency and airing them on Facebook. It's something that should just happen. People should be able to be at home. People have young children. People have jobs. You should be able to know what your town council is doing without having to come up and dedicate hours and hours like all of we do. And of course, CHCO is usually there with us. It's a big commitment. And before is, I think, and I've heard it in the past, is if people want to know what's going on, they can come up because it's a public meeting. But the truth of the matter is I look at my job and I look at council's job to actually tell people what we're up to, because they have a right to know what we're talking about in their community.
We've been talking a lot about the busy summer season. Now, that means there's also this issue that we're dealing with, which is looking for workers a lot of the time, but that's connected in the ecosystem of a small town to affordable housing. And obviously the housing crisis is not even just national, this is an international issue right now. But I understand there are some developments in terms of affordable housing in this community, or at least on the horizon.
That's exactly it. We are on the horizon. So if you look at kind of the seasonality of St. Andrews and the fact that we need so many seasonal workers to come in to work our businesses, plus we have very fortunate to have the New Brunswick Community College, we've always had housing challenges. But then we look at like some great things like St. Andrews population growing, up 14.8% in the last census. That has just put more stress on our housing. It is an extremely hard place to find, especially a rental in the community. And until recent, there's been no rent control mechanism, so landlords, demand and supply, can charge whatever they want, and if people want to live in this community, they have to pay it. So council, when they all sat down with CHCO, you were nice enough to interview all the candidates that were successful and all the candidates that weren't. All the candidates that were successful all said that their number one priority was housing. So for the council to spend this much time talking about it, focusing on it, shouldn't be a surprise at all. And I'm really proud of the efforts and the focus that staff has put on it as well. And we have 35 units that have already been signed in development agreements. I wouldn't say they're not affordable, but I wouldn't put them in that affordable. But we're close to getting in another deal, which would bring in affordable housing. So the conversations that I'm having around the table right now is about all these different developments combined is about 120 units, and almost 50% of those would be affordable units. So we're really hoping as early as next year to start having shovels in the ground. Some of them I'm going to let them come out in the next literally month or two. You're going to hear some news. I'm going to let them tell it's their investment. We're working with private developers. The town is a partner in that. It is a sizable amount of money that council set aside. Technically it was $900,000 to develop housing in this community. But if you also look at the tax dollars coming in, this investment will pay for itself. It might take 8 to 10 years for the entire amount to get back with tax dollars, but we can't just assume that it's going to take care of itself. We need to, as a municipal government, be the ones to drive this. The provincial government and the federal government, they got communities all over saying we have a challenge. As a municipality, we need to make sure that we're an active player so we get to the top of the line and we get built. And I know I've said it before, but I don't know how many times I've listened to interviews and different things to talk about population decline in the Atlantic provinces. We finally have a chance to grow. Let's not look back and say, we should have done this, we should have done that. Let's grow. And I don't want to lose the identity of St. Andrews, but 500 residents is not going to take away from our quality of life. It's going to make businesses more vibrant. It's going to be new neighbors. Taxes keep going up. How do you stop that? Growth. And I think healthy growth is important, and not to take away from the characteristics of this town, but you can tell I'm passionate about this and I'm really excited. I want to just say what's up, but I'm going to let the developer together with hopefully the municipality say this is what we're doing, but we're getting close.
And I do think the growth of town is obvious. If you just take a stroll in the downtown core, you're looking at Drew Haven, which we both were at for the Jubilee, the new Char and Chowder. There are all kinds of business developments going on, which obviously need to be supported by workers too, so that I will be looking forward to hearing more about that. One thing that we do know that's happening this fall is amalgamation. St. Andrews obviously not being hit in the same significant ways as places like St. George, Blacks Harbour that have a full new council to elect, but you are incorporating Shamcook and Bayside. Can you tell me a little bit about, is there a facilitator currently working with towns to make this process easier, and how are you gearing up to integrate 3 new councillors into the mix?
Yeah, so it is 3 new councillors, so 2 from Shamcook and 1 from Bayside. So our facilitator, his name's Don Fitzgerald, and I'm not just saying it, but I think we hit the home run of facilitators. I know we didn't get to pick him. They got appointed, but he's a very understanding individual. There's been a couple things throughout the process where he has listened, he's gone back, and he's actually been able to implement the change. So as far as an entity, and there's a regional reform happening as well, but as far as like a community reform, I've got to acknowledge my representatives from Bayside, Shamcook, and St. Andrews, because we are all working together and trying to figure out a way about that. There is concerns that I still have. For example, we are elected officials. The residents of St. Andrews voted for mayor and councillors, and we normally pass the budget. That's how we were able to lower the mill rate for the first time last budget. With municipal reform, they're actually saying that the province themselves, through appointed individuals, will pass our budget as a community. So that's extremely concerning when you have elected officials not able to be the ones to officially approve their own budget, but people outside of our community that are appointed. I could do a whole show with you on that, but I have talked to the facilitator about that. We're working on it. I understand in some communities where you have a bunch together, but we're really St. Andrews with 2 LSDs. Leave the LSDs alone. Let them, don't touch their taxes. Don't touch their budget. But within the town, we should be able to pass our own budget, our own spend, because we have multi-year plans of challenges in the community that, quite frankly, people that don't live here don't know.
Okay, well, you are certainly my most frequent guest. I can say that. So I look forward to having you back a month from now. We can see where this is going and also touch on some of the Canada Day summer activities as they're underway. So thank you so much for being here today, Brad.
I appreciate any chance I have to be here. I appreciate it.
My guest today has been Brad Henderson, Mayor of the town of St. Andrews. I'm Vicki Hogarth. Thank you for watching Your Town Matters.